Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to WDM Masterclass on Rubber Dam. Today we have with us Dr. Akshay Chaudhary. He completed his BDS from MA Rangoonwala Dental College, Pune in 2007. He is founder and chief dental surgeon at Ace Dental Care and Plant Center, Khar, West Mumbai. He lectures and gives demos and hands-on at Dental ED and Club across Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Thane, Kalyan, Dombivli and Kolkata. He has lectured at various endodontic meets. He was felicitated by renowned author Michael Young. Welcome, Dr. Akshay, to the show.
Thank you, Ashwani. So let's start this session today. I'll be talking about rubber dam basics, which I've been talking about all these years. Hopefully you can hear my voice properly.
Yeah,
Ashwani, is it fine?
your voice is absolutely fine, sir.
Okay, good. So we have viewers joining and we have, I think, 166 people joined in now. So let's start with the session. So today I'm going to brush up for amateurs or maybe newer dentists. I'm going to teach some basics of rubber dam, and which are very essential nowadays, since COVID is on upon us, and it really needs some uh, thinking to do, and we need to incorporate rubber dam in our daily practice. So let's start with the session. I'm going to share my screen with you all. Ashwani, I'm going to put you backstage.
Yeah.
So, good evening, people, and morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, accordingly. Uh, so now, this session is about basics, as I told you. So, when I say basics, it's not completely rudimentary. It's what you need in your daily practice to start off with a rubber dam application. So, it is pro basics, which means if you learn this by heart, or you practice this in a proper manner, in a very disciplined manner, or in a very proper technical way, you are going to ace at your rubber dam game. And I am not kidding you, you really are, because this is what is required for you to apply uh, in your daily rubber dam practice, because rubber dam now is very essential. May it be COVID or may it not be COVID, but rubber dam is going to be very essential, because it plays a big role in adhesive dentistry and modern dentistry. Not only for safety, it's also for medical legal purposes, and so on and so forth. So let's see how it goes. Okay, let's start with the session. First of all, special thanks to Team WDA, and I have been a member of this group since August 2011. That's like more than 9 years, I suppose. I think this group was founded in 2011, July somewhere. And that's where I think I started my practice and so on. It's been a good journey with the group. So special thanks to the WDA team. Each one of the members is working hard and striving hard with all the webinars which have been held in the lockdown and the post-lockdown. So we are just trying to better the dental fraternity each and every day, step by step. Okay, so be with us. So just a little disclaimer, all the cases in this presentation are not fictitious. Okay, any resemblance it's purely coincidental, and all the patients are normal fee paying patients. It's not like I've called the patient specially for documentation or anything of that sort. It's just a normal patient which I do in my everyday practice. Okay, let's brush up on the history of the rubber dam. Okay, when it was first invented. So, as all of you know, that Dr. Sanford Kisibanam in 1864 gave us the first rubber dam. Okay, and then Dr. S.S. White gave us the punch. and then Dealey's Palmer gave us the clamps, and we have come a long way from that. So I think now uh, we should really start practicing rubber dam in our daily practice. It does not depend on the size of the practice or the type of the practice. Many people say it's my practice is a basic practice. My practice, I see many patients. I am not able to uh, handle that much of load. But now in COVID times, you have to schedule your appointments likewise. So you have pretty much of time between patients, and you cannot see that many patients every day. So this is a good time to incorporate rubber dam in your practice. And so since 1889 to 2020 now, so that is a long time. And you can see in this slide that how the old school rubber dam was placed. There's also a mouth gag in this, and tensors and a wrap around belt around the patient's mouth. So it might look uncomfortable, but it is for patient's safety and your own safety. Okay. So nowadays, when you start opening up a clinic, there is a certain kind of standard which you have to abide by to open a clinic. May it be in a village or may it be in a city. Some equipments are standardized. So you need a dental chair, of course. You need a digital RVG system. You need a digital X-ray. Okay, Class B autoclaves or generally autoclaves in whole and magnification. May it be loops or may it be microscopes. So it is pretty mandatory. But I would recommend that with all that keeping all that in mind, you should also incorporate rubber dam in your practice as a standard care, because nowadays clinicians concentrate more on the aesthetic part of the clinic, and they don't really invest in proper instruments. So it is better that you plan out what you really need in your practice and what you really are going to do in your practice. But rubber dam is definitely one of them. You need to buy that when you start your practice. If you haven't already, I think you should invest in one. And as I said, rubber dam is mostly for moisture control, because nowadays the game of adhesive dentistry is getting better and better by the day. So it has to supplement that thing, because adhesive dentistry, as we know, we requires stringent protocols to really be successful in that. Adhesive dentistry, by I mean composites, luting of your ceramic crowns and veneers and everything. So that means because the materials are tested in a certain environment, you need to simulate that in the oral cavity. Rubber dam is one of those beans. Okay, so that will give you a dry and a moisture-free environment. So let's look into, if you don't use rubber dam, what are the hazards if you don't use a rubber dam? Okay. So the most common one is aspiration of instruments, which is pretty. I think it's medical legally it's very bad, because you don't want the patient aspirating any kind of instrument. Now in this X-ray you see endodontic instrument. People swallow burrs, files, whatever you put in your mouth. Sometimes implant drivers. So you really need to take care of all these things, because medical legal systems in our country is getting stronger. Patients are getting aware. So you also need to keep upgrading your practice with that. Okay. So as I said, medical legal aspect is very strong. Nowadays, patients directly go to the consumer court if you are at fault, and the consumer court might ask you for a compensation for that. Your reputation obviously is at stake, because the patient is going to spread a bad name about you. And in worst cases, sometimes the license gets revoked. Okay, I think that is the worst thing that which can happen to you. Okay, you don't want that happening to you. So this is a slide which is very important now in this COVID times, because we all are generating aerosols in our practice. And rubber dams is a mean to control this aerosol. I don't mean to say it is a 100% control. I just mean to say that it is in adjunct to be used with the IVAC suctions and everything else which you are using in your practice, like a filter, proper hygiene protocols, and everything. With what you have got in place, this is an adjunct to it, and definitely, and it has been proven that the use of rubber dam is definitely going to reduce the aerosol in the vicinity of your patient. So it's about 3 feet and about 70%. So that is very substantial. And as I said, this is used with the high volume ejaculator, like the high vac suction. You have to use it along with that. So it will reduce that much of aerosol in your patients. Okay, and also it will improve the safety. So many people say, no, I will do it later. It's quite an investment. I don't know the technique. So I would really recommend now. You have to start now. You cannot delay it anymore. So stop the procrastination, and please unnecessarily don't delay it, because it's not that big of an investment. If you can invest in a filter which is costing like 25 to 30,000, you can definitely invest in a rubber dam kit, which is for which you just have to replenish the rubber dam sheet. That's the only consumable thing in that kit. Okay, so stop the procrastination and get the kit. So, as I said, the common reasons are, first of all, clinicians attribute to its time consuming. That is because they don't know the proper technique. That is the whole thing. Basic investment, I would say, it's not a huge cost, but it is a cost which you can say it's around 20 to 25,000 anywhere between that. And treatment fee, sometimes my colleagues or my students or participants ask me that I don't charge that much so as to use a rubber dam, but I recommend them that the sheet is going to cost you maximum of 25 rupees or 20 rupees, or if you buy it in a bulk or with a friend of yours, it would further reduce the cost. So treatment fee is not a big issue. It is about starting somewhere. Okay, it's not always about if you're charging for the root canal like 4,000 or 2,000, something like that. You can definitely use a rubber dam. That's no excuse for not using a rubber dam. Okay, so what are the common hurdles when we are not using a rubber dam? Of course, the first one is saliva contamination. That is what we don't want in any of our respirations or any of our dental work. And we all know the struggles of a large tongue. It's a havoc. Uh, yeah, definitely. Previous slide which I showed you is a fear of aspiration. People are swallowing files, burrs, and small. I have also heard when you're removing a crown or splitting a crown, the loose part of the crown flies off in the patient's throat. So that is also a big hazard. And chemical burn, definitely when you're using chemicals like phosphoric acid, hypochlorite, and other chemicals when you're etching Emax crowns or repairing PFM crowns or Emax crowns. So those things are pretty corrosive. So that is going to prevent, rubber dam is going to prevent the burn from happening, definitely. So you don't need to dilute any of your hypochlorite. Aerosol protection, definitely. COVID times, as I told you, it's very necessary, and I've already showed you the evidence of the rubber dam use and the aerosol protection. It is reduces around 70% of the aerosol, and definitely we have to obtain a clean and dry field for the dental work to be done. Okay. And access and visibility, because we are always struggling to see that molar which is at the back of the back of the jaw, and you really cannot see it because there's tongue coming in, the cheek is collapsing on the molar, and the assistant is not retracting properly. So rubber dam is going to help you for access and visibility, because it is going to take the tongue and the cheek away, and you're just going to concentrate on that tooth. Okay. And as I told you, patient protection is the first thing. Then again, infection control, improve dental material property. Definitely, that is the thing, because these materials are tested in a certain environment which you need to simulate in the oral cavity to give them a proper consistency and a form. Because you cannot blame the material for your poor technique. Sometimes people do that. This composite is not good, or this bond is not good. The restoration got debonded. It's not the material which is causing it. It's your technique. So pay attention to that. Then increased operating efficiency, definitely considering all those factors, your operating efficiency is definitely going to improve. And once your operating efficiency increases, your chair side time is bound to go down. It's definitely substantially, it will go down, and it will also make you more productive, because you can do more work in less amount of time. Okay. And this is something which we all ignore. This is basically a DFUC, which means directions for use. So it is there in every composite, every bond, or every material which you buy. So please try to read it. Every manufacturer has their own instructions, and how the material has to be used. So, and their recommendation is always there. It's isolation has to be with rubber dam. So, and please always read the directions for use. It's put there for a reason, and every material has its own properties and own things which you need to take care of. Okay, so don't blame the material if you don't use the don't read the instructions carefully. Okay, now rubber dam is going to give you all of this retraction, okay, isolation, more visibility and efficiency. So you can see better what you okay, you can see the tooth better. There's a better contrast, more light coming in, because all the tissues are retracted properly. You can focus on your work, and then you can do better what you can see. So definitely this is a thing. It is going to help you. If you have magnification, that is a very good thing. Even if normal look will do, but you have to have some sort of magnification, because in dentistry we are working in millimeters, and you have to convert that millimeter into a centimeter, so that you can see it better and treat it better. Okay, these are some of the common excuses which I got. This is related to India. The person says, I have 50 patients and I don't have any time to incorporate rubber dam in my practice. Plus, again, the expense part comes in, and this was a new one for me. No one uses in India. That's not there. This one is quite genuine. I don't know how to use it. It's never been taught in college. So any of your college graduates, if you ask them, do you know how to apply rubber dam, they directly say, no, I have never used it in my college. So it's high time that colleges also upgrade to using rubber dam in their sessions, which may it be undergraduate or PG, whatever, but they should be teaching people to use rubber dam. The patient definitely does not feel uncomfortable. Actually, he becomes more comfortable, and the patient actually relaxes. I have had patients sleeping in my chair while the treatment is going. So it's very comfortable, and it's definitely not a complication. It is to avoid a complication. It's not creating a complication. So let's begin this journey. It's definitely a journey for people who are going to start with rubber dam practice, because when I started my journey back in 2011, and at that time I thought that I need to improve my level of practice, and rubber dam was one of them. Of course, there are different things which you can do better your composite technique, do proper veneering and etc. And so, but rubber dam is definitely one of them which is at the topmost. So when I started this journey, I looked up to this man. So this is my most favorite athlete in the world. So he's basically a runner. So what he says, the only disciplined ones in life are free. If you are undisciplined, you are slave to your moods and passion, and this is very true. So if you start postponing things and don't put it to practice, you are definitely not going to improve at anything. You're just going to lag behind, and you're going to leave it at that. So this was my first rubber dam kit in 2012. So this was definitely a 14 kit because this had all the essential things to start off with a rubber dam practice. Okay, so this one had about 9 clamps or so, and sheets with a frame, punch, and a forceps and everything. So this was, I think I bought it for 20,000 rupees or something like that in 2012. So let's get into the basic armamentarium which is required for a rubber dam practice. So the basic instruments, as you know, are clamps, rubber dam punch for the rubber dam sheet to punch the holes, a clamp forceps. The clamp forceps is used to carry the clamp to the tooth and set it on the tooth. Rubber dam sheet, of course. A template. The template is used for punching the teeth. Okay, in which quadrant you want to punch and how many teeth you want to punch. A floss is definitely necessary because you need to pass the rubber dam through the contacts and retract also with a floss tie. And there are some accessories which you require. Liquid dam. I would advise my participants to not to use liquid dam because refrain from using it only in dire situations where you just cannot get a proper seal. Then only use a liquid dam. But with a whole tooth, try to avoid using a liquid dam. I don't really use it that much. Teflon tape. This is a good thing. You need to incorporate this in your practice. It has various uses, from retraction to filling up a temporary cavity, isolating the neighboring tooth when you're etching, so on and so forth. Wedges or a rubber dam piece, you will know where it is used for when I go on further with the presentation. I'll let you know where it is used. So as I told you, it's a clamp forceps. This one which I'm using is an ivory pattern. There are different patterns available. The other one is Washington one, which has a long shank and is long beak, and a rubber dam punch. So a rubber dam punch, let's see how many holes it has. So it has 5 holes. So logically speaking, the biggest hole which is there is number 5. So that will be for the biggest tooth in the mouth. That's the molar. Then the smaller one, premolars. You can use the number 4 for smaller teeth like upper 7s and 8s. And then you come to number 3. Number 3 would be anterior and pedo teeth. Pedo teeth, by which I mean the molars, not the anterior teeth. Number 2 would be broken teeth, and number 1 would be lower anterior and pedo teeth as well. Okay, so let's see how the sheet is now. What my personal recommendation would be to use, if you're isolating multiple teeth like a quadrant isolation, I would use a heavy sheet because it stays better there, and definitely it also gives you some amount of separation and it retracts the soft tissue better. And for a medium sheet, medium gauge sheet, I would do it for an endo or something like that. If I'm doing a quick endo, I would use it for a single tooth isolation. Okay, and there are some gauges for you. There's thin, medium, heavy, extra heavy, special extra heavy. That's just technical data. And the sizes which are there is 5 by 5 inches and 6 by 6 inches. So generally 5 by 5 inches is used for pedo, and 6 by 6 is used for adult. Okay, and the sheet has 2 sides. One is shiny and the other one is a matte. So the matte will always go towards the operator and the shiny will go away from the operator, which means the shiny is facing towards the oral cavity. Okay, there are colors available with the rubber dam. Okay, generally the colors which I am using for my practice are these colors. So black and turquoise, I use it when I have aesthetic work and photography to do a particular documentation of the case. And general and aesthetic work, I would use green, blue, and purple. So generally, I don't use purple or green that much. It's just blue. And if I have to document a particular case, which is an aesthetic case, I would use a turquoise one. So as I said, a rubber stamp template is very necessary for guiding you to punch on which quadrant you have to punch your teeth. Because if you don't use a template, what happens is your rubber stamp, when you stretch it on the frame, it becomes slightly offset and you don't get a proper feel of the oral cavity. So always use a template, even if you're using for a single tooth. It's very helpful. And all these punching and marking of the teeth has to be done by your assistant. So you have to learn this procedure first, and then you have to tell the assistant to do it. You just have to put the rubber stamp on the patient. And the arrow which you see on the screen, I have marked, it's an up arrow. It has to always face the patient's nose, so that when the assistant hands you the rubber stamp sheet, he keeps it on your tray, so you know where the arrow goes, so you don't have to fumble with which quadrant the assistant has. Okay, so this is a very useful tip which I can give you. Now coming to the clamps, many people get confused on which tooth which clamp has to be used, and I don't know, the clamp is not that stable which I'm using. It pops off when I'm stretching the rubber stamp sheet. So I'll tell you today which clamps to use and how to use them. First of all, you should be able to differentiate between the clamps which you have with you. So generally, for starters, I would recommend people to use any kind of, you can use a winged or a wingless one, but definitely to start off, I would prefer people using a winged one because it is easier and it is faster. Okay, so you can see the difference between a winged and a wingless one. The winged one is the second one, which you can see a wing which is popping out. There's a purpose for this wing because if you have a wing on the clamp, you can put your rubber stamp on that and then carry it to the tooth. While as the third one does not have a wing and it is a low profile clamp, and it will not impair your clamp placement because or what you say, a retainer placement when you're doing a class 2. I would rather prefer using a winglet one in a distal class 2. So these are the common anterior and premolar clamps. So number 9 would be an anterior clamp. You can also use it for premolars. Number 2 and 2A would be for premolars exclusively. Sometimes I use number 2A on upper 7s because the teeth are smaller there, buccolingually. So this clamp fits better than any molar clamp. 212 would be my go-to clamp for anteriors, lower anteriors, and sometimes premolars. 00 is a very good clamp for canines, I would say. It's really a good profile, and it's a small jaws which fits the canine properly cervically. So I would really recommend you buying this 00 clamp. And let's go to the posterior clamps. So what we have here is my favorite clamp is W3, and the rest of them I use 12A and 13A. I have these are my workhorses. The upper 3 are my workhorses. Number 7 I rarely use. I use it on bigger maxillary first molars. It fits there very well. And 8 AD would be my go-to clamp when I have distal filling on a last tooth. For example, 7, which has a DO. So as you can see, it has an elongated bow. It retracts the sheet backwards, and you have more room to work over there. And these are some special clamps. As you can see, they are tissue retractors, which means they retract the tissue, which means they have a deeper grip than the normal clamps. So these are pretty active clamps. So these have to be used in special situations where you don't have much of a coronal structure to latch onto with a normal rubber dam clamp. This is a deep reaching clamp. This is angled towards the cervical area, and it will grip on whatever tooth structure is available. So these are some special clamps. Okay. So as I told you, the flat jaws will be for moderate grip and full form teeth, like the ones I showed you, like the winged ones and wingless ones, and the white teeth. And the deeper ones would be the Brinker's one. It would be deep for broken down teeth, and they would retract the tissue in a manner where you can work with those teeth. Otherwise, see, if you have a situation where there's a deep class 2 and the tissue has been inflamed in that area, I would definitely recommend managing the soft tissue first rather than using a specific clamp for that area, going deeper and deeper and just causing more injury to the tissue and causing more bleeding. So that is not going to help. So I would always suggest that manage the tissue first. Don't try to be smart and try to retract it with a floss tie and everything. It's going to cause a mess, and later on you're going to have to manage it. So before trying on any clamps, I would say people, you should go for safety ligation. So safety ligation means you have to tie a piece of floss to the clamp. Okay, it is threaded through one side of the hole of the clamp, and then it is bound on the bow, and it is taken out on the other side. So when it is on the other side, it has to go buccally always, because you can tie that piece of floss to the frame, or you can ask the assistant to hold it. It's just in case if it pops out when you're stretching the rubber dam sheet. Okay, so this is how you do it. Now I've threaded it through one of the holes, and now I'm going to wind it around the bow. Carefully see this procedure, because first timers who are going to start off using rubber dam, I would definitely recommend doing this, because you're going to have a lot of clamps flying around in your clinic. So this is a safer bet to do it, because you don't want any clamps flying off to your face and breaking your spectacles, or hurting your assistant, or going to ask me how I know this. Okay, so this is better if you start off with this. A safety ligation is definitely recommended for people who are starting off with a rubber dam. So I'm going to take the other end now and thread it to the other hole. So that hole would be on the buckle side always, because you can safely use that side and ask the assistant to hold it or tie it on the frame. Okay, so that completes the safety ligation. Okay, now let's go to the stability. So now that I have done my safety ligation, how do I choose a proper clamp for that too? So you have to keep in mind the clamp has to be properly stable before you start isolating the teeth. So you have to test the stability of the clamp. How is it you want to test the stability of the clamp? There is one rule which is called a 4-point contact. On the left side, you can see the clamp which I have used is 2A, and it has a proper 4-point contact. So what it is giving you is a proper stability. The clamp is not going to rock to and fro when you are going to stretch the rubber dam sheet, and nor is it going to pop off. On the right side, whereas I'm using a Molver clamp there, number 7, it has got a fulcrum there, which is going to rotate, and it's going to come out definitely while stretching a rubber dam sheet on the frame. Because what's going to happen is the 2-point contact which is there, it's going to rock the rubber dam to and fro, and the clamp to and fro, and the clamp is going to be unstable and it's going to come out. So you don't want that happening. The left one is the proper thing which you have to do. Okay, so let's start with some techniques here. I would suggest you should try these techniques because they are faster, efficient, and more predictable in your practice, because you have to be definitely faster, but you have to place in a certain protocol where you have to abide by a technique which you have to repeat in every patient, because you cannot do a different technique with a different patient, a different thing with the other patient, because the assistant is going to get confused, you are going to get confused where to use what. So be thorough with your protocol, where to use what, and you will be more faster and more efficient and more predictable in your technique. So I'm just going to show you some of the techniques which I personally use in my practice. So first one is with the winged clamp. So as you can see in the picture, this is a number 7 winged clamp, but I'm going to use a 13A clamp. Okay, so there is a thing about this clamp, 13A and 12A. It's a pair of clamps. So this clamp will be used in the first and the third quadrant, as the name is 13A. It is easier to remember. And as you can see, the jaws are offset. So these jaws are offset for a reason, because the smaller jaw will go towards the palatal or the lingual side, and the bigger one will go to the buccal side, buccal or the labial side. Okay, and as I said, it's a winged clamp, so you have to use a winged technique. You have to take your rubber dam sheet and put it on that winged clamp on the wings of the clamp. Okay, I am of course going to show you a video on that, how to put it on the rubber dam sheet. Okay, you just have to see it that when you put it on the rubber dam sheet, this is the differentiation which you have to do. As you can see on the left side, on the buccal jaw, you can see the teeth is engaging into the rubber dam sheet. You don't want that happening, because when you try to place it on the tooth, the sheet is going to stretch it and it's going to tear. So you want it clear from the jaws. You don't want it into the clamps of the jaw. Okay, be mindful of that, and then you can use your forceps to carry it to the tooth. Okay, now this is the proper technique which has to be used when you're using a winged clamp. So you take a winged clamp. Okay, as you can see, there are wings on that clamp. Okay, and the sheet is already punched for a single tooth isolation. So I'm now going to lift up the sheet, and watch carefully. What I'm doing here is I'm going to engage one side of the wing first. Okay, I'm centering the clamp first. Now you have to stretch the sheet in a proper manner. Don't worry, it's not going to tear if you're punched properly. Now that I have loaded that sheet on one side first, and then I'm holding the other side and then stretching the other side and then engaging the other wing of the clamp. Okay, so you have to do it very slowly. It looks very easy when I'm doing it, but it takes a certain amount of practice to do this. But definitely I'm not discouraging you. I'm just telling you that be patient with this technique. Sometimes what happens is you don't stretch the sheet enough, or you let go of the other wing. Things you tend to get frustrated that it's not holding on pretty well. So I would say stay persistent with the technique. And after that, when you have loaded it onto the rubber dam sheet, you take the forceps and carry it to the tooth. Now there's an important thing which you have to do when you engage it onto the tooth. Okay, now that you are placing it on the tooth, please do it very carefully. Don't expand the clamp too much. It's not required. It's just 1 or 2 mm greater than the tooth. That's more than enough, or maybe 1 mm, just to slide onto the slot. And now that you can see, I've placed it onto the tooth. The next step would be that I would take an instrument and I would take my rubber dam sheet off the wings, because this is going to complete the isolation. If I don't do this, there is a gap which you can see the holes are exposed. All the water which you're going to use with the aerator, it's going to go into the patient's mouth, and it's not going to fulfill your criteria for an isolation. So this technique is quite easy, but then you have to be careful when you're isolating teeth, because you have to be really patient when you're trying it out for the first time. So I've taken it off one side, Now I'm going to take it off the other side also. So you can ask your assistant to keep it stretched, or you can also use a frame while you're doing this. So you can see how carefully I've teased the sheet out from the frame. Now I'm going to use a piece of floss to push the rubber dam sheet through the contacts, and you have to be really gentle. You don't have to push, you have to do a flossing motion so that the floss glides and slides through the contact area. Okay, so I'm there. You can see I did not remove the other part. I just looped the other side and put it again back, and now I'm going to remove to the buckle side. It's much easier that way. It does not tear the sheet and does not fray the floss also. So now that you have taken it interdented in the buckle side, you have to do that same thing through the distal area also. Sometimes it's difficult to do to the distal area, but you have to be patient. You have to go from the bow, from behind the bow, and take it through the contact. See how carefully I'm doing it. Be slow. You will get it through the contact. Don't worry about that. See the motion which I'm using to and fro to go through the contact. Yes, now there is a lot of sheet going through the contact which I don't want, so I took back some of the sheet because it will get difficult to get a lot of sheet through that contact. Okay, so let's go to the wingless clamp technique. So as the picture is showing, there is no wing on that clamp, so you have to manage it. So how do you do that? Okay, now this is a wingless clamp. This is a 26N. Okay, so when you don't have wings for your clamp, where do you engage that clamp? So basically now you have to figure out how to engage that clamp. So this is how you engage it. You have to engage it between the junction of the bow and the clamp. That is where you have to engage it, in that constriction area. Okay, so when you engage it there, the other part of the jaw is going to come out to the shiny side, and you have to pick it up from there. You don't have to pick it up from the other side. Possibly you cannot pick it up from there. So, and don't get confused with the winged and the wingless technique, because there is a similar thing which you're going to do after you take it to the tooth. Okay, so this is the video for the wingless technique. So as you can see, I have a wingless clamp over here. Okay, the tooth is already punched and marked. Now I'm showing you where I have to engage the rubber band sheet, where I have to load it. Okay, so there are no wings on that clamp. So it is the same thing. You have to stretch it far enough and engage the area. So it is the junction between the jaw and the bow. Okay. So now pick up the rubber dam sheet. Mind you, this is the heavy sheet which I'm using, the turquoise one. Okay. You see that I push the rubber dam clamp into the sheet, and it was very easy with this technique. So I really prefer this kind of technique when I'm doing my isolations. Okay. Now that you have to pick it up from the other side, the shiny side, take the forceps. Okay, take it to the tooth. The advantage of this technique is, from the winged one, is that you can see the whole quadrant and the whole tooth. With the winged one, you had the small hole which you have to visualize, and sometimes I do a thing that you have to mark the tooth which I'm placing a clamp on. So can you see that? You can visualize the whole tooth and see where you are actually placing the jaws of the clamp on the tooth. Okay. So now back to the mat side. Now again, you have to take your flat instrument and gently tease the rubber dam sheet towards the jaw and towards the tooth. See that? Okay. So that was pretty easy compared to the winged one. So this, I would definitely recommend you to buy winged clamps in addition to the winged ones. Okay, now let's go to the isolation of multiple teeth. So here I'm going to show you a posterior quadrant. Okay. So first things first, take the template and mark your teeth which you want to isolate. So in this, you have to take into consideration that there are 4 teeth, and 2 of them are molars and 2 of them are premolars. So you have to alter your hole size here. For the molars, it would be number 5, and for the premolars, it would be number 4. Okay, so you will have 2 of 5 and 2 of 4, and you have to be very careful when you're punching it. It has to be a very clean punch. Press it very hard so that it punches out properly. There are no nicks or tags into the rubber dam sheet. Okay, so those are my 2 holes, which are number 5 holes. Now I change the dial to number 4. Now I'll punch the holes for the premolars. Okay, now these are the tags which I'm removing, which you don't need, which are going to hinder the placement of the rubber dam sheet. And then I chose a wingless clamp here. Yes, now I loaded the clamp onto the sheet, and I have to always load it near the junction of the jaw and the bow, and then carry this clamp to the tooth. It's much easier with this technique. Take a forceps and put it on the tooth. So as I told you, the advantage of this technique is you can see the whole quadrant, and you can see that particular tooth which you are going to use as a primary clamping tooth. And you can see how carefully and easily I'm placing the clamp so as to avoid the trauma to the soft tissue. If you can be really careful with your placement, sometimes I don't even use anesthesia when I'm doing the multiple teeth isolation, because you have to hone into that perfection where you need to know whether the patient is going to have pain and how to minimize the trauma to the soft tissue. Okay. So the same thing, you have to take the rubber dam sheet off the jaws and towards the tooth, and there's something which you have to do additional in an multiple tooth isolation, which is called knifing of the dam, which is basically you're stretching the dam so thin that it becomes like a knife edge and passes through the contact. Okay, can you see that? It passed through the molar, both the molar contact, and I'm trying it now in the premolar area. This is definitely going to go easier because the tooth is already prepped for a class 2. So there is more space for that thing to go. And that's pretty much each. So that thing is very crucial, which I showed you, the knifing of the sheet, because it's going to make your job much easier. And the next thing is I would use a frame. Ask my assistant to take a frame and pull it around the patient's mouth. Okay, now you can see in the video that I have lost isolation of one tooth. So that's not an issue. You can isolate that tooth. Now what I'm going to do is check all the contacts with floss. See that if the rubber dam is passed through the contact area in a proper manner. Okay. And the thing which I was talking about, not using a clamp for that premolar again. So this is the rolled piece of rubber dam sheet which I'm going to use, that corner, that triangle, which I'm going to roll it with my hand and stretch it and put it in the contact area between the canine and the first premolar. So you have to be really patient with that, but this is definitely going to save you some time. And an addition of a clamp in this area would definitely hinder your vision and the placement of your instrument. So you have to be careful when you're doing that. So I would generally avoid placing a clamp on that secondary tooth. So likewise, I stretch that sheet of rubber dam through the contact area of the canine and the premolar. Now the isolation looks complete, but it is not complete because there's something extra which you have to do. As I told you, you have to, first of all, you have to pass the sheet through the contact area. And there's something extra which you have to do, which is called as inversion. Inversion, I'll tell you what inversion means. This is specially required in multiple teeth isolation. Okay. As you can see, I'm pointing out in the video that the isolation is not complete. The dam is not inverted properly. It is not passed through the contacts properly. So I would take a piece of floss and pass it to each one of the contacts to make sure that the sheet is passed evenly through the contact area, and I want the amount of retraction which I want is in a proper manner. Okay, I don't want any dam sticking through my matrix when I'm placing the retainer. So you have to ensure that. Now you can see that I have again not removed the other end of the floss. I have looped it around and then removed it. Again, the same thing for the molar. Now here I'm showing you some how to invert the dam. You have to take an instrument or you can use a floss to invert the dam sheet. Okay, you have to do that buccally and lingually as well. Inversion is basically to prevent any seepage of saliva or fluids into the isolated area. So that has to be done in every multiple tooth isolation. You just cannot get away by not doing it because it's eventually going to contaminate in your area. Now you can see the isolation is pretty much complete. The dam is properly inverted in that area, and now that it is inverted, you can start with the restoration. Okay. So this is something called as a floss tie. I do a really simple floss tie. I don't use fancy techniques. I just use 2 throws or basically a double knot kind of a thing, and I then you have to pass it through the contact areas of the teeth on the sides where you need further retraction, and you have to take an instrument, ask your assistant to hold the instrument in the palatal or the lingual area to stabilize the piece of floss. And then when you're tightening the piece of floss, make sure that you're tightening the piece of floss cervically towards the gingival area. Okay, now my assistant is holding the piece of floss lingually, stabilizing it. Okay, so as I'm tightening the piece of floss, what I'm doing is I'm pushing the piece of floss in the cervical area so that you get the maximum amount of retraction in that area. Can you see that? how the rubber dam sheet is going towards the cervical area, it will stay put there when you have the floss around it. And then I'm doing one more throw around it to stabilize that knot and pushing it down. Now you can do two things with this. You can tie that to the frame or just cut it off. I prefer to cut it off most of the times, because the amount of retraction which it gives is quite enough. Okay. So there are some common errors when you are doing multiple tooth isolation or any kind of isolation, which you have to take into consideration. As you can see in the picture, the rubber dam is not inverted in the premolar area, and there is quite a lot of seepage in the molar area also. So let's see what those errors are. Okay, first of all, there's inversion, which I told you. The dam always has to be inverted in a multiple tooth isolation, because it is eventually going to lead to seepage due to capillary action. The saliva is going to stick to the rubber dam sheet, and then we're going to come into your isolated area. So you don't want that to happen, because all of your hard work is going to go to trash. So this is a proper inversion where I've used a floss to invert the rubber dam sheet in the area, and I've also adjusted the clamp, opened it up a little so that the rubber dam sheet can go towards the tooth and hug the tooth properly, and there will be no seepage in that area. As you can see, the inversion is causing the fluid to stay in the buccal area, sorry, in the gingival area, so it's not allowing the saliva to come through. As well, it has the double purpose also. The water or the aerator which you want to use, it's not going to go into the patient's oral cavity. Yeah, it's the same tooth. This is the clamp error which I was talking about. As you can see, this is a wingless clamp, and it's not passed through the contact area also, and there's a lot of open area, and my isolation is not complete. So in this situation, what I did was I just took my clamp forceps, clamped it on the clamp holes, and opened the clamp jaws very slightly. What it did was, the sheet was under tension and it came towards the tooth slowly, and it hugged the tooth properly in a 360-degree manner, and my isolation was complete. It's as easy to do, but you have to be careful that you don't have to open up the clamp too much. Okay, can you see that? So it is hugging the tooth properly. It is passed through the contact. Of course, for the distal contact, I did use a floss, the technique which I showed you when I was doing the single tooth isolation. You have to pass the floss behind the bow. Okay. Now that the isolation is proper, the dam is inverted. Let's proceed with the restoration, and this was the restoration which I did. Okay. So keep in mind that all the time when you are working under isolation, try to keep the area as clean as possible. The more clean you keep the area, the better it is for you, because you can visualize the area better. You can treat it properly, and once it is clean, that your materials don't get contaminated as well. Okay. Another case, deep lesion. Okay. So this was a case where I had to isolate 4 teeth, and the tooth at the back, which is the anchor tooth, I am using I think a 13A clamp, which has multiple teeth there. It's for better grip. Okay, so we have something interesting in the first premolar there. So in the first premolar, when I was drilling, I definitely expected it in that area, because I saw it on the X-ray that I am going to have an iatrogenic exposure there. So I have to be ready for that. The purpose of showing this exposure is that you have to always be prepared in such kind of situation. In an iatrogenic exposure, which you know it's going to get exposed, you should have control of that area. I mean, there should be no saliva seeping through any other thing, because that controlled area is going to give you a good prognosis. Because I know that my area is isolated properly and everything else is pretty sterile. So that my procedure, which I'm doing, which I'm going to tell you, what I did was, in this DPC, I placed MTA on that pulp horn which got exposed, and then I put some flowable GIC liner. And then I proceeded to go on to do the normal compositors restoration of that too. Okay, so that was the MTA plus the liner. So this was the regular MTA which I placed there on the pulp horn. Cleaned the cavity properly with saline, or you can see the most sterile thing in your practice would be, uh, if you're using a cartridge, I generally use the leftover Lignospan or whatever anesthetic which is left in that, with a sterile cotton to wipe off any excess MTA in that area, and use a GIC liner which is light cured, and completely cover up that area. I have almost completely covered up the dentine, which is good. It indirectly seals off any kind of dentine which is there, and primarily you have to rely always in a bonding. You have to rely on the enamel, because that is going to give you the strongest bond. Okay, so this was, and this is the other view. As you can see, the margins or the seat of the restoration is pretty clear. I have not allowed the liner to flow to the seat of the restoration. And that was the completed restoration on the first premolar. Okay, now I have to do the second one. So the second one was pretty simple and straightforward. So I filled it up and polished it like that. So that was the result. Okay, this one is way back. Like, when I started my practice, I was fascinated by the use of black rubber dam sheet. So this is my amateur photograph back then. But my love for anatomy and molars is still there. So, but you can still see when I started using Navana, it was pretty clean. I used to keep those. I was pretty worked up if my assistant used to not suction it properly or not keep it clean. So you have to be pretty much thorough with that. Okay, okay. This one is another one. This is a class 1. The purpose of showing you this this isolation is for a class 1. You would say, why would I choose to do a multiple tooth isolation? I would just get away doing a single tooth isolation. Well, personally, I would not prefer that, because even if it is a class 1 or a single tooth restoration, you have to still manage the cuspal inclines, the height of the cusp, the deepness of the restoration, which you are going to refer to the other tooth, which is the 7 or the premolar. So you cannot do overfill on the cavity and just keep on reducing the area. So this was the completed restoration. I always look at the inclinations of the cusps of the neighboring tooth whenever available, because that is going to help you and guide you on how to place the increments of your composite. Too much of composite which you place in the occlusal area, it's just going to go to waste. So please try to refrain from using a lot of composite and make a exquisite carving. It's not needed. As you can see, the restoration is pretty well blended with the cuspal inclines and everything. So I had to really do minimal adjustments. I think I didn't do any adjustments at all. It's polished off the cavo surface margins in this restoration. As you can see how harmonious it is looking, the inclines and the central groove and everything. So from this lectures, you know a lot about rubber dam now, and all the basics you know. So you must learn to apply and start to do the rubber dam practice, and the willingness is not enough. We have to do it. So please try to start using rubber dam. It's quite easy. If you have any questions, just throw it at me. I'm there on Facebook. I'm there on Instagram. Okay. Thank you for watching this, and stay safe and stay healthy. Okay. Any questions, just fire at me. Not a problem. Let's exit out of this presentation. So I'm going to put Pashwani on board now.
Thank you, sir. That was a very nice presentation.
Thank
There
you.
are few questions. There are few
Definitely.
questions from the audience. Yeah.
Please.
One is from Dr. Priyanka Sawant.
Yes.
She is asking, please suggest which rubber dam kit is good.
So as I told you, Priyanka, when I started my practice, I used the Coltrane kit just because the kit was complete. You don't have to go for any other thing because the clamps are there, the frame is there, the forceps are there, and you also have a starter pack of sheets in that. So that was a complete thing for me. And back then, New Freddy was not a big thing. It was just starting off in India. So I used the Coltrane kit, definitely. They are not paying me to say this, but definitely I would recommend the Coltrane sheet because if you don't want to go hunting for which clamp, which forcep, which sheet. So it's just a complete thing. Go for that. I would recommend that, definitely. Yes, Ashwani, more.
Another one is from Dr. Brijesh Sutaria. He's asking how to place rubber dam on metal PFM or zirconia crown.
Okay, that's a good question. For a metal and a PFM crown, zirconia crown, you would rather use soft clamps. Soft clamps, I mean, there are some, I could not show that in my presentation today, but definitely that's an advanced thing. You wouldn't want to place as an starting of practitioner clamps on teeth which are made of metal or zirconia or ceramic that is going to do chipping. But there is a clamp called an Insta clamp from I don't remember the company. It is a plastic clamp which you can use. Okay, so that is a complete plastic clamp, and that is going to cause less harm in that area, and it's going to avoid chipping of any ceramic or any zirconia in that area. Hopefully that answers your question.
Another question from Dr. Abhay Singh. If assistant is not trained or if we are practicing alone, can rubber dam be placed without help?
Definitely, when I started, my assistant was used to go on and off, but I was very persistent on using it, and I did use it. So assistant or not, first, anyways, which you have to do is you have to learn the technique first, and then you have to teach it to the assistant. So if you don't know the technique, the assistant is not going to work for you. So you have to learn the rubber dam, and then you have to place it first, show it to her, and then only you can practice. So even if the assistant is not there, you can definitely use a rubber dam. Or rather, you should use a rubber dam if an assistant is not there. That is the best part.
One more question from Dr. Abhay Singh is
Yeah.
asking, can endo procedure be done with single tooth isolation or multiple tooth isolation is required? Which is better?
Okay, if you have multiple teeth in the same quadrant to be isolated for endo, then you can use multiple tooth isolation. Okay, suppose in the first quadrant you have a premolar and a molar which you are trying to do endo on, so better go for a multiple tooth isolation. If you are doing a single tooth, if it is 6 on that first quadrant, you can get away with a single tooth restoration. If you are not restoring that tooth on that appointment itself, if you're doing only an endo. If you're restoring that tooth on that appointment, I would recommend you to go for a multiple tooth isolation because, as I told you, when you're restoring for such teeth, you need to see the cuspal inclines of the adjacent teeth to restore the tooth functionally. And it is going to save your time adjusting in an occlusal adjustment. Hopefully that answers your question.
again from Dr. Abhay Singh. In multiple teeth isolation, difficult to pass damn sheet interdentally. It always comes out. How to overcome that?
Okay, this is going to take some practice on your part because, as I told you, there are two things to get the dam through the contact area. It is knifing the sheet and the floss. So knifing refers to you're stretching the rubber dam sheet so thin that it is going to pass through the contact area. And the second one is the floss. The floss is going to help you to pass the sheet by pushing the sheet through the contact area with the help of a floss. But you don't have to be you have to be very light-handed. You cannot just keep on pushing because if there are any sharp edges on that tooth or the contact area, it's better that you take care of those sharp edges of the tooth first and then try to pass through that contact area. And
Yes.
definitely, if it is much harder for you, the contact area is pretty tight, you can put a tiny amount of Vaseline in the shiny surface area of the rubber dam sheet. That will help in lubricating the sheet, making it pass through the contact area easier.
Dr. Swapnil is asking that my sheet keeps on tearing while I stretch the sheet for clamp attachment. What must be going wrong?
Sorry, come again. I did not get that question.
Dr. Swapnil is asking, my sheet keeps on tearing while I stretch the sheet for clamp attachment. What must be going wrong?
Oh, okay. So in this situation, Swapnil, I would advise you to see how you're punching. The punch might be defective there because it is not giving you a clean punched hole. That might be the cause. And if you're using a very thin sheet, that also might be a cause. But regardless, the main error would be nick in your punch. So that is the thing which is tearing your sheet. Nothing else. It's not your technique. You just have to pay attention to punching your sheet properly. It has to be a very clean hole, and be patient with your stretching of your sheet. Don't stretch it too much out of the elastic limit of the sheet. Generally, they are pretty stretchable. So try to shift to a medium or a heavy sheet. Those are much more forgiving.
Dr. Devarpan is asking, paper or metal templates, which are better?
Which ones? Plastic ones.
Yeah, plastic. He's asking metal templates. I've not heard.
Uh, no, I don't think I have seen a metal template, or maybe he's talking about a pack time,
He
which
must be
used to
asking
come.
about plastic.
Yeah, I think so. So it doesn't matter. It's a guide for you. So it doesn't matter really. Anything you can use.
That that was all. Thanks again for a very informative session.
Thank you, Ashwani. Thank you, WDA, for letting me host this session. And hopefully, people, you have learned something from this session. And I would really advise you to go to your clinic and start practicing rubber dam. If you have already purchased a kit, start using it. If you start using it daily, you're going to get good with it. If you don't, if you just keep looking at it when to start and when not to, then it's just going to delay the process. So start using it. That's my advice to you.
Thank you, sir. Good night. Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Thank you so much.